Right, there's still no attendees, but maybe they've gone. So we should have pressed it. Now we know for next time. Oh.
Okay, there's none. This makes me feel a bit better. Oh no, there's one.
Oh, there's one.
2, 3.
Oh no, it's
That's two of the same person. And
Hello and welcome today to our university event. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm sorry for the late start. We've had a few technical problems, but we are all here now. So we've got today 4 out of 6 of our universities from the UK, and we're here just to give some insight into studying in the UK, how to apply, and also what our universities are like. And so during the presentations, if there's anything you would like to ask us, please do let us know. And we are from 4 different universities, so we can give an insight into each area, different parts of the country as well from the UK. So I think we're going to just do 1 slide each first, just to give you an insight into what it's like to study at that university. And then we'll go into some further questions. But throughout the presentation, if you do want to ask anything, please do just put it in the chat, and we will be happy to answer it. So actually, I'm going to start. My name's Emma, and I am from the University of Portsmouth. The University of Portsmouth is down on the south coast of the UK. So the top right-hand picture, you can see it's a very coastal city. It's a flat, small city, and it's 90 minutes by train from London. So it's a good location to be if you want to be close to London, but you want to have cheaper accommodation, be in a smaller environment, and maybe feel a little bit safer than a huge city like London, for example. Portsmouth is famous for a few things. First of all, it's famous for being the place where the Royal Navy is based in the UK, so it's a very historical city. It's also famous for being one of the most kind of densely populated, so everyone lives very close to each other, which means that you never have to go very far if you want to go to see your friends or you're going into your halls of residence. So the city centre campus is really convenient for students. You're very close together. Obviously good transport links to across the UK, because you can get into London easily, and then also to Europe, because we're not actually that far from France in Portsmouth. So in terms of the university itself, we've got 5 faculties: the Faculty of Business and Law, Science, Humanities and Social Sciences, Technology, and Creative and Cultural Industries. Within those faculties, we've got around 450 different courses, undergraduate, postgraduate and research degrees. We also have a foundation college, and you can go there to kind of pick up your academic level if you're just falling behind slightly compared to the equivalent in the UK. We accept students from a big range of backgrounds. So obviously, like I've mentioned, you could go to do foundation if you are getting slightly lower grades, or you can come directly into us. And I've got on the screen there kind of the UCAS points that we require. Normally it's from 3 A levels. IB would be about 26, 27, depending on which course. I've also got the Thanawir there. Thanawir would definitely need to go to foundation. In terms of costs, a course at Portsmouth will cost anything between 14,700 and 17,600, depending on whether you're going to be studying more lab-based or classroom-based. We ask for a deposit of 3,500, and we do have scholarships available to different nationalities. So, for example, we've got £1,600 scholarship for most students within the North Africa region and South Asia as well. And we also have a £5,000 scholarship, which is just for 10 different nationalities, and that's more competitive. So that gives you an idea about Portsmouth, and now I think we're going to move on to...
I think it's me. It is. Thank you. Hi, I'm Jill. I'm Regional Manager for Middle East and North Africa at the University of Central Lancashire, or UCLan as we are commonly referred to. We're based in a city called Preston, which lies in the heart of the northwest of England. So as you look at the map, we are one of the red dots. We do have 2 other campuses in the UK. One is about 30 minutes away from Preston and the other is about 2 hours away. The only time that you would go to one of these other 2 campuses would be if you're considering our medical programme. So that would be important for you to just look at the wider campuses there. But otherwise, Preston is the main place, the place to be and where you will be located. It's not far from the coast. We are a city centre campus, but as you can see from the picture in the bottom left-hand corner, we do have a river that runs straight through the city. So that gives us that nice kind of juxtaposition of city living and also like countryside. So there's some nice walks, beautiful parks where there's lots of outdoor activities. In the summer, in the spring months, there'll be festivals and fetes and sporting events and all sorts of things like that. In terms of location to the rest of the UK, we are about 2 hours from London. It's 2 hours and 3 minutes on the fast train, 2 hours 30 minutes on the slow train, 3 hours up to Edinburgh, and then it's very well networked to the rest of the UK as well. So it's a really good sort of central location to be able to go up and down the rest of the UK and explore. And we're about 45 to 50 minutes away from Manchester International Airport, and there's lots of direct flights in and out of the different countries across the Middle East. So it makes that commute a little bit easy, that you've not got this massive long trip to get back to your accommodation. It's a really safe campus. It's a safe city, very diverse and multicultural. We've got 24-hour security everywhere as well, and it's also one of the UK's most affordable cities. In terms of our entry requirements and things like that, we offer a flexible admissions policy. So the entry requirements are kind of based around the 112 UCAS point mark. So in terms of A levels, that's around 2 Bs and a C. And we do obviously have the equivalents in all the different curriculums. So you could just ask about that and we can break it down for you at a later time. We offer, I think it's something like 350 bachelor programs and about 250 master programs. So there's a massive range of programs there. So there's a lot of research that you would need to do. In terms of the tuition fees, we break them down by lab and non-lab. So non-lab is exactly what it says. It's those courses that don't require any kind of laboratory. So things like your business studies, law, history, those types of programs. Those are only £13,000 per year for bachelor programs with us. And then the lab-based fees, so these are going to be your sciences, your engineering, computing, and so on. Those are £14,000 per year. And there are some great bursaries and scholarships available on all of those programs, where you could see yourself getting up to £5,000 per year in discount on that tuition fee. We do, of course, offer medicine, MBBS, the 5-year programme, and that's at a cost of £44,500 per year. There's no scholarships available for that, I'm afraid, but that's because we do have clinical placements available to students in every year that they study with us. So it is a fixed rate for the medical programme. So yeah, drop your questions in at any point, and on to the next, who I think is Ian.
Thank you very much, Jill. Welcome to everyone. My name is Ian and I work for Northumbria University, Newcastle. And I know that it's quite an information heavy start to this session. So what I want to do is just to briefly touch upon Northumbria and talk about some of the things that you, particularly if you're a parent on this webinar, might be thinking about. And we'll go into a bit more detail in the coming slides. As for our university, we are based in the northeast of England. So we're in a city called Newcastle. We are a large university by UK standards. So we have a population of over 30,000, and we do actually welcome in over 130 different nationalities from all across the globe to our university. So not only are we a big university, we're a diverse university with a really healthy Middle East population as well. We have our history based in Rutherford College. So our university, although it is what we call a post-92, actually dates back to 1880. And you can see that visually with some of the parts of our university as well, some of those traditional red brick buildings that you see at UK universities. We are highly ranked. Just this year gone, we're ranked 27th in the UK in the Guardian 2021 league tables. And we are the fastest climbing modern university out there as well. As a parent, you're probably thinking about, what will the advantage be of coming to the UK to study at one of our universities in terms of long-term and job prospects. So for example, our university, we work with over 560 different employers, and this will be the case for a lot of the universities as part of our group and on this webinar today. And we do have the opportunity for work experience and work placements as part of studying with us. You're probably also thinking about the student experience as well. Is my son, daughter going to be safe? Are they going to have an enjoyable time? I touched upon the multicultural nature of our city, and indeed our cities for all of us are campuses if we're campus based. Newcastle as a city, 5 out of the last 8 years was #1 for student living in the What Uni poll. So it's a fantastic place to live and study. And as I mentioned, we have campuses. We are a big university, but we also have campuses in London, and just new for this year as well, we are accepting applications for a few subjects for our Amsterdam campus as well. So I'll leave it at that and then pass over to my next colleague. Who is Diane?
Hi. Thanks, Ian. Right, my name's Diane Weston. I'm from the University of Kent. So you can see up here on the map where we are. Our main campus is in the southeast of the UK in Canterbury. We also have a second campus in Medway, so quite close to London. Both of them are just less than an hour from London. We also have centres in Brussels and in Paris. Canterbury itself is a very beautiful old medieval city. This is the cathedral where students have their graduation ceremonies, and this is the campus. You can see it's a very green campus surrounded by lots of parkland, so everything is all in one place. So accommodation, socialising, sports facilities, everything is all in one place. We have 6 divisions. So we've got business, where obviously we have a lot of our business programmes. We have law, society and social justice, where we have law, sociology, and also the journalism there. Then we have computing, engineering and maths, the natural sciences, human and social sciences, arts and humanities. So general entry requirements are average round about 3 Bs at A level, or maybe 14 points at higher level IB, but we do accept many different curricula, so it doesn't really matter what you're studying. And we've got gold in the most recent Teaching Excellence Framework. We have scholarships available. Some of them are automatic, depending on if you get high A-level or IB results, and some of them you apply for. So lots of different things available. We have our own international foundation program. So we run, it's our own designed and delivered foundation program, lots of different clubs and societies to join, and lots of different accommodation options. So that's a very quick run through of Kent. Now here we've got a little bit, one of our colleagues, Hamza from Nottingham, Trent, unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but just to very briefly talk to you about Nottingham Trent University. I know a little bit about Nottingham Trent because I studied there, but many years ago. Nottingham Trent is based in Nottingham, which is kind of right in the centre of the country. It has lots of opportunities for placements with their undergraduate programmes, and again there are lots of programmes: art and design, architecture, business, law, journalism, science, arts and humanities, social sciences, and animal and rural science. So fees are around about the £15,000 a mark, and they do have some scholarships, but for more information there's the link here. Okay, so that's a very brief run through of Nottingham Trent, and then Matthew from Liverpool John Moores. Actually, Emma, would you like to talk a bit about Liverpool John Moores?
Hello, yeah, that's fine. So yes, Liverpool John Moores University is based obviously in the very historical city of Liverpool, up in the north of the UK. It's a large university, like, to be honest, all of ours are really. It says 25,000 students there, and again from over 100 different countries. So another diverse university, and a very much a student-led city is Liverpool, because you've got at least 2 universities in the city. Liverpool John Moores has a strong reputation for engineering, architecture, sports science, art, forensics and pharmacy, and you can see the tuition fees there, very similar to what other universities will offer, 15,600 to 16,100, and that would be again dependent on whether it's a lab-based or a non-lab-based course. I know that Liverpool John Moores do have some competitive scholarships. £3,000 is mentioned there, but you'd have to look a little bit further into the website to kind of dig out all the details of that. But it just gives you a brief overview of where Liverpool John Moores is based. So what we thought of doing was just to, because we've got no questions in the chat at the moment, so like I said before, if you do get any questions that come up, please do let us know. But we thought we'd actually go through a few questions ourselves, things that we often get when we're talking to parents and students, and hopefully answer some for you without you having to even ask them. So if you just want to bring up all the questions in the application process, and I can kind of go over them as a whole, really. So obviously applying for a university is a huge decision, and something that I know that both student and parent are heavily involved in. And one of the questions is, how can I help my child in their choice of university? I know you're on a call today with UK universities, but one of the first things for international students really is to consider, where do you want to study, as in which country? So that's a starting point, is to kind of look at the different options: America, Australia, the UK, Canada. These tend to be the most popular, and think about what would be the best for you, both in terms of how far that country is, what qualifications you've studied previously, which would link to that curriculum. So we will take all sorts of different curriculums, but obviously if you've done the British curriculum, it would make sense to move on to the UK. Lots of different things, you know, things like, do you have family or friends in those countries as well? And then once you decide kind of really the country that you're looking for, then you can look at what university you want to look for. And some students will just say straight away, I want to live in London for the UK, because London is the city that they know of the most. And so, you know, like we would know New York the most for America. But there are many cities in the UK, and London is just one of them. And there are implications for studying somewhere like London. So London has a range of universities, but obviously London is a thriving city and it's one of the most popular cities in the world. So living cost is very, very high. And that is something to take into consideration. You will also be very lucky if you live close to your university in London. You are more than likely going to live across town and therefore have to commute in each day into your lectures. And that kind of thing. So whereas if you live in a smaller city, or a city with one university, or a city or a university that is all based on one campus outside of the city, then you're not going to have those charges, and it will be a lot cheaper to live, to commute, to get around. And sometimes also there is the concern of how safe a place is. So, you know, obviously large cities have, you know, very big problems with crime and things like that, which is very standard for a large city. So just that, those are the things to consider. Do you want a campus that's everything included in one place, or do you want to be in a city centre? And if you are in a city centre, do you want to be in a smaller city centre, or do you want to be in the countryside? All of those kind of things. But also in terms of the university, it's got to be right for the student. So does it offer the course that they want to do? And are you allowing the student to think about the course as in they've got to study it for 3 years? So it's really got to be something that they love, and they're going to be hopefully good at as well. So those kind of things are needing to take into consideration. But another thing is what kind of grades is the student heading towards? So if the student is heading towards a 95% in whatever the qualification they're studying, they are top of the class, they're top of the school, then yes, you really could apply for any university. But if the student is a 60% student, you've got to look at which universities are more likely to accept you, and also the courses as well. You can definitely help your student, your child, with the application process. You could help them by giving them some pointers into, students really struggle to write their personal statement. So it's very hard to kind of say how great you are, but in your personal statement, you have to. And that's where you could come in and say, well, actually, don't forget that experience you did, or that extracurricular you did, or you know, you really are into this area, and talk about your passion for the subject area. All of these things will be important when coming to the application. So applying for a course in the UK, there are a couple of options. So you can apply through a system called UCAS. And if you're studying at an international school, I'm sure your counsellors will talk about UCAS for applying to the UK. UCAS is Universities and Colleges Admission Scheme. And it's basically a platform where you can apply to 5 universities in the UK. The good things about UCAS is that it makes you apply preferably by a deadline, and your counsellors will be pushing you to get your applications in by 15th of January, it normally is, for the next intake in September. But it also makes you home in on universities. So instead of applying to 12 universities, it says you need to apply for 5 only. So it does give you that kind of narrowing down of your options. You would also be expected to apply for a particular subject area. So if you're going to apply to Portsmouth for business and management, then you would probably apply to UCLan for something very similar, like business with something else, if it was slightly different. You wouldn't apply to Portsmouth for business and then go and apply to Kent for pharmacy, because your personal statement wouldn't link. So there are good things about applying through UCAS in that sense. Bad things about applying through UCAS is things like students think there's a really strict deadline. And also you are narrowed down, so you have to just go down one route and you can't be flexible on that. And also within, for example, in Portsmouth, your application goes through the UCAS system and it doesn't come directly into our office. And so we have less chances of being able to work on it quicker and move things along a bit quicker. So sometimes there are negatives as well. So we always recommend that students apply directly to the university. You don't have to apply through UCAS. You can go directly to the university and put an application in, and it is as simple as finding the course you want on the web page and clicking apply now. And just don't worry about UCAS. That's another option for you as well. And some courses like medicine would want you to apply definitely through a specific route, whereas most courses will accept you direct. And how can I find out if my child has got a place at university? Well, if you apply through UCAS, it will be all through the UCAS system. So you have a login details, you go into your UCAS portal, and you can see when a university has made an offer, but they will also email you as well. If you apply direct to the university, exactly the same. So at Portsmouth, we have a portal, you can log in, you can check your status, you can see where it's at, and you can find out what your status of your application is that way. So the main thing I would say is whatever email address you put into the portals or into the UCAS system, you must be checking that email. And some students just don't, they disappear. And then they're like 5 months later, why did I never get an offer? It's because we've given you that offer through your email and you've not checked. So that would be a big tip, is make sure you've got a working email address that you are regularly checking. Accommodation.
Sure, I'll take over this one. Thank you very much, Emma. So that's a nice sort of transition into speaking about accommodation. If we think we spend about a third of our lives sleeping, your accommodation is going to be somewhere where you're going to be spending a huge amount of time. So as a parent, I'm sure that you would want to know where my child is sleeping, what are the facilities like, what's it look like, what's the experience. So broadly speaking, in terms of what sort of accommodation is available, it really varies, and it will vary from each university to each university. And I'd recommend that you go onto each university website, and they should have a dedicated accommodation section of the website. In some scenarios, it may be that an individual is living in a shared flat with where they'd have their own bedroom and they may have their own bathroom, but they would share living and kitchen facilities. At the other end of the spectrum, certain universities might offer studio apartment opportunities as well, where everything is all part of your own enclosed space, and it is very much yours to own and to do what with you like. And of course, there is a variety in cost as well. So, typically in the UK, I can speak certainly for Northumbria, our accommodation is between £70 and £130 per week, depending on what level of accommodation and what standard of accommodation that you're really looking for. And each university will have a spectrum of offers as well. In some contracts, it may be that you are tied into those contracts for term time only. So your contract might be something like 40 to 42 weeks in length. Other contracts might simply be for the entire year, or it may be a 9-month or 10-month contract that encompasses most of the teaching time, but excludes that kind of summer bit where there's no teaching. So each contract will be different, each accommodation option will be different. You'll need to check those out on the university websites that you're applying for. But generally speaking, accommodation in the UK is very good and is of a very high standard. We're typically asked whether, particularly, can my, daughter, for those of you that have daughters out there, can they stay in female-only accommodation? I certainly know for Northumbria, this is very much a possibility. If it's just a case of asking, and I don't really know of any UK university that wouldn't be able to accommodate that. So the short answer to that would be yes, and we are, as universities, very aware and can accommodate cultural variations and beliefs as well, and that is no problem whatsoever. And you've got to remember, for us as universities, safety is one of our number one priorities, and we certainly want you as parents to feel confident, comfortable and confident that your daughter, your son, is very safe on campus. And just to kind of add to that as well, each of our universities will have campus security as well. And should you ever, in the unlikely situation that your son or daughter were to feel unsafe on campus, we do have our very own campus security teams that will be there alongside local law enforcement to make sure that everyone is safe, everyone has the best experience possible. The next part is, can my child live in university accommodation after first year? I'm talking about the typical experience, which is after the first year of study, having met people on their course or in their halls of residence. Typically, university students will move into private accommodation, and this tends to be just a preference rather than anything else for most of our students, and that includes international students. And it's all just part of the student experience, going into halls in the first year of study, university halls, and then sort of branching out once you have more confidence, and having your own place. However, that being said, a lot of students will continue to live in halls throughout their time at university. And particularly, we do find that international students or, students returning for postgraduate study may increasingly go back into university accommodation. So it is absolutely possible, but we would say that typically students would move out after their first year as part of their university experience. But chat to your university that you've applied to, and they'll be able to give you a much greater idea as to what to expect. So I'll leave that there with accommodation. Of course, there's the Q&A opportunity. So if you do have any questions about accommodation that I've not covered, please do ask those questions towards the end. Pop them in the Q&A. Thanks.
Thank you. And I think I'll pick it up from here to consider some of the questions that you might have about once your child is in the UK. So some of the things that you'll be thinking about is, when does the child need to arrive in the UK? Well, the main answer to that is to just read all of the letters that you've had from the university with the offer that you're going to accept. It will be very clearly written within the offer letters and the guidance that you have what the actual date is that you need to be on campus for, when you need to have enrolled by. So do that reading and make sure that if you can avoid them missing too much from the start of the year, that that doesn't happen. Obviously, starting university, it's not just about starting academics, there's all of the social things that go with it. So all universities have what we call a freshers week or a welcome week, and this is a really important time for that socializing and making friends and feeling a bit more settled in the campus, getting to know your way around and meeting new people and signing up to different activities and events. So if you can be at the university for that freshers week, there's so many benefits to it. It's not the end of the world if they can't, as long as they're there for as much as the start of the course as possible. So read that literature. One of the other biggest things that we always tend to get asked is, can I come with him or her for the start? Obviously, it's a big step, isn't it, to move away from home, and especially for you guys as international students, is for moving to a different country. And I think that instinct will probably be there, that you want to guide them through it and be with them through every step. Really, think about it. It's not something that parents would tend to do here. So we don't find that many UK students come with their parents. Some might just do a drop off and, drop all the bags off and everything, but then they go away and they leave it so that the students can settle in. And I think what you would need to think about here is that if you come with your child, if it's for a few days or for a few weeks, they're going to be thinking about you, they're going to be wanting to spend time with you, and what's going to be neglected in terms of that socializing and fitting in and spending time with the new flatmates and so on. So it would definitely be something to really consider and to weigh up, and obviously the university will be able to give you advice and guidance on if you are coming, where to stay, because you won't be allowed to stay within the university halls of accommodation if that's where your child is staying. So, you know, it's something to think about. It is a big step, but it is a leap that the student can make by themselves, and it's an exciting adventure to look at it that way. And then what do they need to bring? You know, don't bring everything. We've got shops here. They're very affordable as well. We've got some really affordable shops in the UK where you can buy pretty much everything. So don't spend a fortune on packing lots and lots of stuff and, you know, paying for extra bags on the flights. Just bring the essentials that you need. A few, you know, photos that are nice to bring, and maybe a stuffed animal that reminds you of home, those kind of nice things to make your accommodation look good. But, you know, clothing, bring a few bits obviously, but you can buy more stuff when you're here, weather appropriate stuff. We did an event a couple of weeks ago with some of our existing students, and the topic of clothing did come up, and one student said, I bought stuff from home. I think he was from Qatar, and he said, I bought a big winter coat, but then I came to the UK and it wasn't the right kind of winter coat. So that kind of thinking, you know, wait till you're here to see what you're going to need. In terms of the bedding, the pots and the pans and all those kinds of things, your university will guide you on what is included within your accommodation. So again, read the literature that you get, visit the websites and find out all about the accommodation, and talk to our existing students. So I think we all probably have the kind of uni buddy access where you can just go on our websites and talk to our existing students, and you can ask for their experience and what did you need to bring with you, and what have you bought and what did you find. And you know, you'll find that there's a lot of swapping that goes on as well for students. So don't pack everything because you won't need it. Our support as well. I think what you find in the UK is that we really look after students. There's a lot of concern about mental health and well-being and study support, student support. So there is support at all of the universities. You will get told about specifically where you can go for what, but you will have access to counsellors, mental health counsellors. You'll get a study advisor, like a tutor, all of these kinds of things. So I think that the biggest thing is to know that you can reach out, you can ask for help, and you won't be judged for it when you're here. So use the services that are available to you. And you know, you're not looked at negatively at all if you take up any of those services that you need. We don't want you to be sat in an accommodation feeling lonely, upset, struggling, not able to cope with the massive change that you've gone through. So make sure that you reach out and you talk to people, and make sure that you socialize. For everybody, it's not easy. I know from personal experience, I wasn't a big fan of the Freshers Week. I didn't like just throwing myself out there, but you have to, and that's how you make friends. And it really does help you move in leaps and bounds as well. And then another big thing actually that we come across is, will you tell me how my child is getting on in their studies? Well, there's a couple of things here. First and foremost, if you do want to be kept in the loop, if you do want to be kept in communication and you want us to be able to chat with you, we do need permission from your child. So just make sure that we have received that permission from your child directly so that we can all add it to our records, and then we will be able to talk to you directly about your child and their application and everything like that. Now, in terms of how they're doing with their studies, university is very different to school. So it doesn't always work the same that you get regular reports and reviews as you might at school. So it's unlikely that you will get sent any kind of progress in terms of how they are coping academically. But as long as we've got that permission on record, then if you reach out to that network of teaching staff, then they would be able to communicate with you directly about how your child is doing while they're studying with us. Okay, I think that kind of covers those questions. If we want to look at the finance side of things, the big one.
Thank you, Jill. Right, so I'm going to talk very briefly about finances. So the first one here is, how do we apply for a visa, which isn't necessarily to do with finances. But most students, international students, will need to apply for a student visa to come to the UK. So as universities, we will support you through the whole visa application process. The main thing that we have to do is provide you with something called a CAS, which is a certificate of acceptance for studies, which you need to show when applying for the visa. Now, there are lots of different places where you can go to depending on what country you're applying from. But as I say, we will support you through all of that. It is quite a straightforward system. The main thing, as I say, is to get the CAS from the university, but also you need to show that you have the money in the bank account for 28 consecutive days before you apply for the visa. And it's generally an online process. But there's lots of information on our websites and on the gov.uk website as well. So do I have to arrange insurance? Well, there's two types of insurance. I suppose there's health insurance. As part of your visa application, you will need to pay the National Health Service surcharge, which is about £150 per year, which means that your child will have access to all of the National Health services free of charge. The only thing that they'll have to pay for really are prescriptions. So you don't really need health insurance. If you want private health, that's a separate matter. But as I say, you will be covered in the National Health surcharge. There's also a lot of, most universities, if you're staying in the university accommodation, there will be insurance included in your accommodation charge. But if you have items of high value, you may want to take out some extra insurance for those, if you're lucky enough to have those. Right, next question. How much is it going to cost? Now, that is quite a big and I suppose important question. And that depends on many, many factors. Obviously, the length of programme. Most programmes will be 3 years. Undergraduate degrees will be 3 years. There are exceptions to this. There'll be, more for a medicine programme, for example, but also you can have work placement or study abroad opportunities, which make it a little bit longer, but generally you would only pay for the 3 years that your child is studying in the university. Different universities will charge different fees. So have a look at those when you're making your decision so you can work out your budget. They can go from maybe £12,000 up to, I don't know, Oxford, Cambridge will be charging about £30,000. I'm not 100% sure, but it's about that. So there can be a wide range. Most universities will be somewhere in between maybe £13,000 and £21,000 per year. So you've got your tuition fees, and then you've got your living costs. So accommodation, again, your accommodation fees could vary quite a bit depending on the university. And different places might be more expensive. Again, for example, if you're going to London, you might have quite high transport costs because you'd have to get the underground or buses everywhere. If you're on a campus, you tend not to have so high transport costs because you are living and studying in the same place. So really it depends on your budget and where your child is going to go to university. I think most of us on our websites will have a little calculator where you can, which will show you the price of things, and you can use that to work out what your budget will be. You can open a bank account, but bank accounts can only be opened once you're in the country. And again, universities will help students if they want to open a bank account in the UK. But now with internet banking and things, I think maybe we're seeing fewer students need to do this. But if you do want to have a bank account in the UK, we will help you, but it may take a little bit of time to get this up and running. So you need to calculate on bringing some money at least to last a couple of weeks until the bank account is up and running. But most places in the UK will take credit cards, debit cards, and internet bank cards. So it's quite easy for payment. What I was going to, here we go. How do I pay for the tuition accommodation? One thing that we wouldn't recommend is for you to bring big suitcases full of cash. Universities generally don't want you to pay cash for tuition or accommodation. We generally will accept online payment. So I think most universities you can pay online or through bank transfers. So you can pay online using a credit card or a bank transfer. But again, there will be a lot of information on the individual university websites about how to pay and when to pay. But generally, again, some universities may need a deposit, some don't. We at the University of Kent, we don't require a tuition fee deposit, but would need, I think we would all need some form of payment before the student can fully register and begin their programme. But I suppose the main thing is there are lots of information on our individual websites, but we are all very happy to answer any questions that you may have. So I think, as we were saying, please do ask any questions in the Q&A if there's anything that we haven't covered. So please do put them in the Q&A. But if not, oopsie, we've got our details. I'll try and go back to our contact details, and I shall leave those up on the screen so that you can contact us should you need anything. So as I say, please do pop anything you need to know, whether it's in general or about a specific university. Feel free to put something in there or contact us directly.
I was just going to add, Diane, I think that in terms of this call, I think that it may be ending in the next couple of minutes anyway, as it's a timed webinar. So we could be very well kicked off the call in the next minute or two in any case. So I think we'll probably wrap it up there. If everyone's happy to do that.
Yeah, definitely. There is just as a reminder as well that this event has been recorded, and so it will be available for you to view back on the strivescan.com/UK Unis site that you use to register. So if you haven't managed to get our contact details now, you can always go back into that and contact us. or watch the video again, and watch the other events that we've done if you didn't join us then.
Right. I think that's it from us then, isn't it? So thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thank you very much for tuning in. Keep an eye out for our events that are going to be happening after Ramadan. We're going to have a series of subject-specific events coming up after Ramadan. So if you already know what you want to do, those could be very useful for you. But otherwise, thank you very much for coming, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.